haven't recorded in a while. I officially gave my letter of resignation. Just, it's I know it. I know people think it's crazy, you know, during a time where people are trying to keep their jobs, you know, to let go of something that is a blessing, right? It really is a blessing to have a job that pays well in an organization that, you know, the heart is there. It's really hard. Really hard to let go of that. But as much as the heart is there, it is work. It is work, and it's not anything that this particular agency has done or not done. It really has been more of me and how I've positioned work in my life, and the emphasis that I've placed on it for a sense of stability. And I know it that's what that is for a lot of people, right? A lot of families, because it provides shelter and food and, you know, basic needs that people need to be able to function in everyday life, to be able to survive in the world that we live in, how things operate, how things work. And I just ended a meeting with all the leaders in our organization, and I was asked if it was okay to share, and I said, of course. It's loss is never easy. Loss is never easy. You know, we don't master grief and loss. We experience it. That's all we can do. Really, truly. Even these skills, these life lessons that I'm learning, that I'm working towards mastering. You don't ever master anything. You just experience it. You live it, through it. You do your best to learn from it, and you just respond differently, you know? Because in the end, it's all about connections. It's all about relationships. And the meaning, the significance, even the hurtful ones, it's all about connection. And connection hurts sometimes, you know? It hurts. And I just have to remind myself that we're all interconnected, right? We're all interconnected. Yesterday, actually, last night, I was reading a chapter from Miss Pima's book, and it actually, the chapter was titled Birth and Death in Every Moment. And it's such a good chapter. Such a good chapter about just how, you know, I mean, in our culture, Western culture, death is just, depending on our religious beliefs, you know, it's hard to talk about. Loss in general is hard to talk about. And then I think about, and Miss Pima highlighted how different cultures view death. And I've seen it in you know, those National Geographic, just, you know, those documentaries about how other cultures look at death and how they celebrate life, or how they actually go about embracing the discomfort, right? Making it known in their community that someone's grieving. You know, how, yeah, I mean, even within our history, back in the day, you know, women would wear black. They would wear black dresses. And I think it was like in the 20s. I mean, I remember learning that. And so the world knew, right, that they were grieving. Like if there was a certain time frame to grieve before being able to move on. Like a sense of honoring it, you know. We've lost touch. We've lost touch with looking at death differently. With honoring. I think, yeah, just honoring that process and how it looks differently yet the same for everybody, you know, because we often just think about it as an individual ending a life cycle, but there's so many life cycles around us. And I think I mentioned it in another video when I think it was about, I talked about November and the fall weather, and this sense of like just through the seasons there's death and rebirth in that process. And with life, right, with transformation, but also Miss Pima points out that every moment there's a birth of you know, that connection, that interaction, whatever that moment looks like. There's that initiation of birth, and then there's the death of that at the end of that moment, right? That in itself is a mini cycle. When people interact and connect that moment, there's a birth and a death in that moment, you know, that you those paths cross, those memories. And when you build so many memories, right, so many moments, then there's death and birth and death all around. And I really liked her perspective because it made me just think about death and loss in a different way, you know. And I asked a certain individual after I read it, you know, I asked him, you know, are you afraid of dying? You know, are you afraid of dying? And then he asked that question back to me too, and sometimes I could be morbid with my thoughts, you know, where I imagine death, or I imagine loved ones dying, to get a feel for how I would respond. And I know it's morbid, but there was initially this need for me to get a feel for that so that I don't fear it when it comes, so I can feel stronger when it comes. And Yeah, I think initially that was my goal with thinking those thoughts. And I know it sounds crazy, but I think with all this that's going on that I've experienced, I think it motivates me. It motivates me to be more aware, right? Be more aware of the moments, appreciating each moment for what it is, being proud of myself for what I was able to accomplish up until that moment, if it's my moment to leave, you know? And just being more grateful, living life with more meaning, with more gratitude, not stressing, not being upset with myself for doing something or not doing something, right? Actions that I take or not take before, I would feel so much guilt for, you know, giving myself some space, giving myself some free time if I had all these things pending, responsibilities building up. Not to say we should totally disregard our responsibilities, but you know, when a certain part of your life is just so consuming because I've allowed it to consume so much of my life. There's always a sense of responsibility, right? To be on at all times. And I never truly gave myself a break from that. And, you know, when you do that for so long, it builds up. It builds up and yeah. And so learning to love myself, right? My parts, all my parts, what I do and don't do, and accepting myself even when I don't do something. And just loving myself for being, just for existing, and doing my best to live a life of no regrets. And I feel like there's just something else, you know? Something else I'm supposed to do. I've known it since I was little, that I'm supposed to do something else. I'm supposed to do something big. I don't know what. I don't know what exactly, but you know, it was always in there. It was always in there. So that's where I'm at right now. Just leaning into the discomfort of my actions, right? The decision that I've taken to move on. The decision that I've taken to embrace something new. To not have a plan. Because I don't have a plan. Not a real clear-cut plan. Not a plan, not a UV plan that I'm used to having, you know, where I outline every single thing. So there's definitely fear in that. Doing things differently. Jumping in wholeheartedly. And I know things will be fine. And just, it doesn't take away from the moment, you know, the emotions. Yeah, it doesn't take away from that. It's very real. Very real. And I love everybody. There's so much. So much. So much. I just wanted to share that. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. probably less because the holidays are here this month.